It wasn't the best news for the Houston Texans at their final practice before Saturday's game against the Chiefs. We'll talk about that. Some media members, talking heads, pundits who are actually glazing the Houston Texans, and two feature pieces about some ex-Houston Texans. It's Gallant Says on January 16th, 2024. Let's go.
A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
Paul Gallant's wondering the same things a lot of people are.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to say.
Grow up, motherfucker. You kidding me?
Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
I just realized I'm having a very hard time saying the correct year. It's 2025 live at youtube.com/Paul Gallant, twitch.tv/Gallant Says, on X/Twitter at Gallant Says, Instagram at Sports Gallant, Facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports. You can catch this weekdays around 4 o'clock Central Time, and occasionally after major sporting events. You can also hear it after the fact, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on SoundCloud. We are another day closer to the Texans showdown with the Kansas City Chiefs on Saturday. Maybe the biggest game in Houston Texans franchise history. If they win, I'd argue if they win, that they should hang an AFC finalist banner like they're the Indianapolis Colts. Yes, we're down that bad. But when all you got are AFC South banners, you may as well add something else. Just put an asterisk at the bottom saying, stopped Chiefs 3-peat. Just do that. It'll make it look a little bit cooler than AFC finalists did. But today wasn't the best day for the Texans on the injury front. We've heard D'Amico Ryans this week talking about how the perseverance of this team is one of the things that's gotten them to, at the very least, the second round of the playoffs. Here is the head coach of the Houston Texans earlier this week.
We've had some ups and downs throughout the year, and we went through some difficult times, where, again, everybody was not believing in us, which
pause. Rightfully so. Rightfully so.
is good. You had that adversity from the outside. We were trying to, on the inside, make sure we're doing things the right way, playing the right way. Games didn't go our way all the time. Like, we've been in tough games. We had tough losses. We've had wins at the last minute. So
it's been pretty much all the wins, for what it's worth.
So we're battle tested as a team. And I think that's hardened us to be exactly in this spot for that reason.
They talk about iron sharpening iron, and they are battle-tested. But, I mean, by battle-tested, they've lost a lot of battles against armies that are on the same level as them. They're France post-Napoleon. It's not to say that they don't have the troops. It's more the execution has been rather France versus Germany, World War II, Maginot Line completely failing. More D'Amico Ryans.
Like, we're battle tested and we're ready to go to battle against anyone. Any type of way the game can go, we've been there.
I wonder if saying battle all the time, that D'Amico Ryans is hearkening back to his time playing for Gary Kubiak. Gary loved to throw the old battle word out there.
Unfortunately, we've been on the downside, we've been on the upside, so we know what it takes to win. And that's what I love about our team. Like, we've learned a lot of lessons throughout the season. We've grown closer together as a team, and I wouldn't want to be with any other group.
I'm not 100% sure I agree with D'Amico Ryans saying that we've learned a lot of lessons. I think they've taken a lot of tests, and they haven't done so well on those tests. They're constantly getting the same score back because they're making the same mistakes over and over again. So hopefully this will be Saturday for the Houston Texans a lot like the last time you took the SAT test. Hopefully you did a lot better than you did the times before. Or maybe you took another test the third time I did the SAT, I got by far my best score. I got a 1420. I don't know that I'm 1420 smart. I was very proud of that 1420 score for quite some time. That was when they were doing the test at a 2400 too, and you would get that number, but it was a very weird one and no one actually cared about the number. I think I got a 650, and they would grade you on an essay in that third part, and the essay would be two people grading it on a 1 to 6 scale. And I think that I had one person give me a 6 and one person give me a 3. So I ended up with a 650 on that side of things. Whatever. I still think about that to this day. These people who are grading my essays. The person who gave me a 3 probably thinks my sports talk show sucks. Fuck that person. Anyway, bringing it back to the Houston Texans and talking about adversity. This is what sucks for them today. Robert Woods has not practiced all week. Of all their wide receivers, I trust him after Nico Collins more than anybody. More than John Mechie, who fumbled, who had the drop. And more than Xavier Hutchinson, who did get open on that play where C.J. Stroud fumbles the ball 3rd and 16. I trust Robert Woods more than I trust those two. So if Woods can't go, that definitely affects your offense. That's going to put more on Dalton Schultz, who has not done much this year. Honestly, a big bummer that Cade Stover broke his collarbone, because Stover in that game I thought was actually contributing a pretty good amount. So this could be really difficult for the Houston Texans when it comes to throwing the football. And maybe that means they're going to need to throw the football to Joe Mixon out of the backfield. But that's the other bummer of a development from practice today. I think he'll play on Saturday, but Joe Mixon, who's dealing with an ankle injury, was not at the final open practice before they head up to Kansas City for Saturday's Texans-Chiefs game. So that sucks. Hopefully Mixon will be as close to 100% as possible, but if you've been paying attention to the Texans this year, you know he's dealt with a couple of ankle injuries that you could argue were the fault of hip drop tackles, which I truly do not know what the fuck those are. Anyway, let's keep on going. Reacting to things that the Houston Texans said this week. Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud talked about, first, playing Kansas City again, and if there's anything that they can take from that first game into the second game. Here's the starting quarterback of your Houston Texans.
You definitely got to go back and, see, things that work, things that didn't work, and I think that definitely helps playing them so recently, but, they also have that advantage as well. So, we got to be able to, still have a new game plan and do things that are, new. And but yeah, it definitely does help to see a familiar team again. And they do a lot of great things. And we didn't really see a whole bunch of it. I think it was the exotic things. So I wouldn't be surprised if that stuff started to show up. So.
That would suck if all of a sudden Steve Spagnuolo starts throwing more exotic looks at Bobby Slowick. So I'm hoping that whatever the Chiefs did the last time these two teams played, also on a Saturday, I'm hoping that it's similar so that Bobby has a chance to adjust in this game. Here's more from C.J. Stroud just talking about the emotional element of that game against the Chiefs where Tank Dell got injured and it felt like they weren't able to shake it off for that disaster of a game on Christmas Day. More from Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud.
Emotional sport we play, especially, when you be with somebody for so long, you see how hard they work, how much they love the game. And, to see Tank go out like that was very tough. And I think even seeing him this weekend at the game and in better spirits, smiling again, gave us like a boost of energy. So, now we got to go do it for him away. And
do it for Tank! You got to do it for Tank Dell. Come on now. You got to dig deep for our dear departed Tank Dell.
The same stadium he got hurt, but, we got to find a way not to get emotional and to channel that. And I think we'll be able to do that and, just be more inspired than anything and try to get it done for him.
They're playing for Tank in this game. Comment from Facebook.com/PaulGallantSports. Emmanuel Pepita says, bro, you're way too good looking to have that bushy pedophile mustache. Shave that off of your pretty face. Well, I appreciate you hitting on me. I really do. But listen, we're going with the mustache until the Texans playoff run is over. My facial hair allows for versatility with looks, and sometimes I'm bored. A lot of people have been asking me about the mustache. It's very controversial. Honestly, I think I'm going to keep it because it does look Tom Selleck-esque, and I'm kind of obsessed with Tom Selleck. Not like that. I just like Magnum P.I., and I like reenacting Magnum P.I. No, not like being a private investigator and driving a cool car or being a fan of the Detroit Tigers. No, I just like Hawaiian shirts. The 80s were the best, says the man who was born in 1989 and knows nothing about them other than based off of watching fiction and TV and things like that from the era. Anyway, I wonder if C.J. Stroud tries to pull a... Because he's boys with Tank Dell. He was making fun of the shirts that they were wearing on the sideline because it did look like the kind of shirts you'd wear at a funeral. I wonder if C.J. Stroud goes online and reads Newt Rockne of Notre Dame, his win one for the Gipper speech from 1928. In case you don't know, there was a movie back in the day, Newt Rockne All-American, that featured Ronald Reagan, future president of the United States, playing George Gipp, who was a sick Notre Dame player that couldn't play for a big game between Notre Dame and Army. Wouldn't it be funny if C.J. Stroud says, well, boys, I haven't a thing to say. Played a great game, all of you. Great game. I guess we can't just expect to win them all. I'm going to tell you something I've kept to myself for years. None of you ever knew George Gipp. It was long before your time, but you know what a tradition he is at Notre Dame. Script. There is a gentle, faraway look in his eyes as he recalls the boy's words. And the last thing he said to me, Rock, he used a dead guy talking to motivate the troops. Hell yeah. 1920s were different. Sometimes, when the team is up against it, and the brakes are beating the boys, tell them to go out there with all they got and win just one. For the tanker. Newt's eyes become misty and his voice is unsteady as he finishes. I don't know where I'll be then, Rock, but I know about it, and I'll be happy. There's a hushed stillness as Rockne and a crowd of boys look at each other. In the midst of this tense silence, Rockne quietly says, all right, to the men beside him. And his chair is slowly wheeled out. His chair is slowly wheeled out of the dressing room. Oh, was he in a wheelchair? Didn't know that. Player number 12. Well, what are we waiting for? And with a single roar, the players throw off their blankets and rush through the doorway. Did they beat Army? Probably. So there you go. There you go, everybody. Maybe C.J. Stroud can pull that one out. And win just one for Tank Dell. Other development for the Houston Texans today. Bobby Slowick had a Zoom interview with the New York Jets. How did it go? I suppose we'll find out in a couple of weeks. Here is Bobby Slowick talking about what got the offense going against the Los Angeles Chargers on Saturday.
Times you just need that energy boost. You need something to just galvanize everybody and get everybody together. And I think that play, did exactly that. And would it have worked if we didn't fumble the snap? I have no idea, but I sure am glad he did, because everyone's just demeanor after something like that completely changed. And the confidence we played with and the swagger that they started playing with after that happened, that was huge for us. That was a big spark.
I'm a little concerned that it's going to take some sort of spark for the Texans offense to potentially get going. And I think that's something that if you watched that game against the Chargers, I mean, they were fucking dead in the water until that play happened. And then they had a couple of nice drives before halftime. And then the second half, there was some sloppiness again. A consistent game from the Texans offense is probably unfair to ask. More than anything, you just got to ask for 0 turnovers. I mean, you're not beating the Chiefs if you turn the football over 3 times like the Texans did against the Chargers. It's crazy. They won that game 32-12. And at one point, the turnover battle, I think, was, I want to say 3-1 because there was a Herbert interception. And then, of course, the Texans get 3 interceptions, and the rest is history. They run away with the game. But Bobby Slowick against Steve Spagnuolo is my biggest concern for this game, especially if Bobby Slowick is somewhat distracted, perhaps, by having a coaching interview. I mean, I think it's very normal to be distracted by some sort of job interview. It's life-changing money that you could potentially get as an NFL head coach. And even if it's with the Jets, I mean, you're going to say no. That might be the only head coaching interview you ever get. So that's Bobby Slowick talking about the Texans offense. And he did have that interview with the New York Jets today. The weather, it's not going to be great, but it's not going to be the worst thing ever. I looked this up earlier on the weather app. Pretty nice day in Houston today, 59 degrees, at least as I currently look at my phone, 4:43 Central Time. In Kansas City, it's currently 38. But Saturday, and thank God this game isn't being played Sunday, because Sunday it's going to be awful. But on Saturday, at kickoff, 3:30 or so, it's going to be, per this app, 23 degrees, 4 o'clock, 22 degrees, 5 o'clock, 21 degrees, 6 o'clock, 20 degrees, 7 o'clock, 19 degrees. The next day, oh boy, at kickoff, it would be 12 degrees. And as the game goes on, at the end, at kickoff time, say they were doing this at the same time, it would be 9. It will be a low of 2 degrees in Kansas City Sunday night at midnight. So Texans are very lucky that they are playing the day that they're playing the Chiefs, because it's going to be fucking cold, but not that cold. It's all relative, right? Here is Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans talking about the impact of the weather on Saturday's game.
Be a challenge if you allow it to be a challenge. For me and for our guys, like, it's something we can't control. You don't control the weather. Right, wherever we have to play, we're ready to go play. We understand we'll be on the road. It's going to be cold. That's what we have to deal with, and it's not a challenge for us. It's just something the other team has to deal with as well. So we're ready to go. There's no excuses about weather. We got to go suit up and we got to go play ball.
And really suit up. Suit the fuck up. Do what Lamar Jackson does. Does anyone see what Lamar Jackson's been doing at these practices? I think he was even wearing this inside at the Texans Ravens game on Christmas Day. Like, it's crazy to see how much he wears at the podium, like after practice when he's inside. Dude looks like he's wearing fucking chainmail. I mean, look at this shit. This is crazy. As the computer slowly loads it up. Oh, come on. Open the damn image. Let's go, dude. There we go. This is what Lamar Jackson looks like at the fucking podium. Looks like he's wearing white chainmail. Like he's about to go fight for Saladin and the Saracens to defend Jerusalem from Christian crusaders. Anyway, that's what they're going to need to bundle up and do. Here is C.J. Stroud talking about the potential impact of weather on Saturday's game in KC.
On my sleeve, but, I don't really have nothing on my sleeve, but, That's kind of one of the reasons I went to Ohio State was to play in the cold and to get used to that. So, I played in cold weather games before. It's different, but it's better than playing when it's wet. So, and then it snows, which is better than if it rains. So, yeah, I'm kind of used to them, but at the same time, we really don't play in the cold here, but definitely have been trained by it in college.
He hasn't experienced this kind of cold in college, so Big Ten games always are played in the afternoon in the month of November. They don't play night games because it gets cold. But also, we're talking November in the Midwest. We're not talking January. We're not talking February. Those are generally the coldest months of the year. Hell, we're not even talking December, So CJ saying I went to Ohio State for the cold weather. Hey, he definitely got it more than he would have if he had stayed in California. But I'm a little skeptical of CJ saying I went to Ohio State for this. Anyway, the weather, it's going to be fucking rough out there. I don't know how many people saw this article that was in ESPN. Frostbite, football, and a borderline inhumane NFL playoff night. It talks about the Chiefs-Dolphins game last year where wind chills reached minus 27 and the temperature in the stadium dipped to 4 below zero. Chiefs won that game over Miami 26-7. And if you read this article, it talks about multiple people who suffered frostbite. It's really funny looking at the league spokesman, Brian McCarthy, who was Baghdad bobbing the shit out of this game because he was asked about potential amputations that had to happen because of the game, and he said, there's nothing that I can find to substantiate reports of people potentially having to amputate limbs, fingers, arms, but yeah, it was brutal. Absolutely brutal. Some people were going shirtless. Insane. And they did that for like 2 minutes or so. 70% of patients at a research center in Kansas City, per a Kansas City TV report, were referred for frostbite injuries and advised to schedule amputations. Insane. And yeah, Brian McCarthy's like, nah, dude. Nah. No way. Not a real thing here. Just makes me think about a song. Remember that song? Made famous back in the day? Baby, It's Cold Outside, and then it became a canceled song. I'm looking up on the internet right now. NPR, Baby, It's Cold Outside, seen as sexist and frozen out by radio stations. It's a song that was written in 1944. It was featured in the 1949 movie Neptune's Daughter and won Oscar for Best Original Song. And I guess it's a little rapey. That's why people don't like it. But I personally think it's a guy just shooting his shot. It's a guy shooting his shot. She seems like she's talking herself into staying because it's cold, but she doesn't want to, but she does. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. So there you go. That's Bobby Slowick talking about the cold. The cold is one thing, but I think what's going to be more concerning for the Texans is the crowd noise at Arrowhead Stadium, because this is a wine and cheese crowd for the Chiefs during the regular season. They've priced out the common man since the team got good, and now, Taylor Swift's going to the games and stuff. I mean, I can't even imagine how much the prices of tickets have jumped over the last couple of years with all the success that they've had. But for the playoffs, or as Nick Wright says, the actual first round of the playoffs, whether that's the practice game, the divisional game against the Texans, or it's the AFC Championship game, they will show up because this is generally one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL per most people who cover the National Football League. Here is Texans offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick talking about the crowd noise at Arrowhead Stadium.
It always helps going to Arrowhead to just let guys see what it's like, feel the environment. But my gut tells me when we go there in the playoffs, it's going to be a different animal. And, that's something we've talked about a lot. That's something we've seen a lot. We've kind of dug into some old film and old TV copies just to see what it's like in the playoffs at Arrowhead, and is it that much different, and so we've talked about it a lot, and that's going to be a huge challenge for us. We got to make sure that we own the things that we can control, and our operation in the huddle, our operation at the line of scrimmage is without a doubt something we have to own in this game.
Does anyone have confidence that they'll own it, just given all the pre-snap penalties that this team gets? Laramie Tunsil, nothing against the man, but he cheats. The guy's constantly trying to get a head start on defensive linemen going up against him. He's really good at timing the snap, determining when he thinks that C.J. Stroud's going to snap the ball. But I think very often he jumps too early. And I would too, honestly, if I were in his shoes going up against some of the best pass rushers in the league. But he is guilty of it a lot. Arrowhead Stadium, with all that crowd noise, do you think in this game that Laramie Tunsil is going to stay on sides the whole game? I'm pretty skeptical about that. Pretty skeptical. Anyway, let's keep rolling here on the Gallant Says podcast. The closer and closer I get to this game, the more and more I'm starting to believe that the Texans can actually pull this off. I was talking about this on the radio show earlier today, and someone who was listening said, "Paul, we want you to be sad and despondent. We want you to be depressed. Because the Texans do a lot better when you seem like you want to off yourself." I don't like that person for saying that. Like, come on, man. Me being excited about a game is not going to jinx this team. But it does feel fucking crazy to take a look at the Texans in the second round of the playoffs and be excited about the chances of them stopping a team from three-peating, you know? Tora McJohnson comments on YouTube at Paul Gallant. Paul's huffing so much hopium. That's true. But I'm not alone. There are others who are of the belief that maybe, just maybe, the Texans will hold their own against a really good Kansas City Chiefs team that's not winning dominant fashion this year. This is a team that's winning games that are close. The idea that this game will be over by halftime, like Nick Wright said on The Herd with Colin Cowherd, I think that's far-fetched. The idea that this is a practice game for the Chiefs, okay, maybe a little bit more believable, but this year everything has come difficult for this 15-2 Chiefs team who hasn't played a game with their starters in nearly a month. Here is Greg Jennings after hearing Nick Wright and his bluster about what this game is for the Chiefs, responding to Nick and seemingly believing in your beloved Texans.
Let me say this. You put up the stats. Can we see those stats again of Houston's defense? Because there was this great man that I happen to know coined the phrase. What was that phrase again? Defense wins championships. It's catching on. Defense wins championships.
Pause for a moment. Did Greg Jennings meet Bear Bryant? Found out today that Bear Bryant is the person who invented the term defense wins championships. Do we believe that Greg Jennings has ever met Bear Bryant? Personally, I do not, but I get what he's trying to say. I get what he's trying to show. This graphic on the screen right here. Texans are first in takeaways, first in pressure, third in sacks, third in third down percentage against. More Greg Jennings wrapping it up, setting up himself to say once again, defense wins championships.
And there's one thing that we saw in that first round matchup against the Chargers. We saw great defense.
Hell yeah, dude. Defense wins championships. If the Texans win a Super Bowl this year, which I think is far-fetched, I'm not sniffing that much hopium, the way that they're going to do it is by winning defensively, takeaways, perhaps a pick six, fumble return for a touchdown. They're going to need something like that because I think we all know that you can't trust this offense to consistently go through a full game playing its best. Whether it's shooting itself in the foot with penalties or turnovers, this year they have been a lot more inefficient. Hopefully next year things are different. Some change up on the offensive line coach. I do think Bobby Slowick is going to be back next year. Saw on Instagram at SportsGallant, El Mimo D commented earlier, I'd rather take the kid who was running plays in Madden than Bobby Slowick. That's what the boys looked like in South Houston. He continues, what was that, talking about the Lamar Jackson look? But yeah, I'm hoping he's not talking about old Sketch, but he could be talking about Sketch, who's not just a streamer. He's an ex-porn star. Versatile. If you're a porn star, you're an athlete, in my humble opinion. So that's Greg Jennings. And I felt bringing up Greg Jennings, we have to go back to one of the greatest moments in internet history when a man who was playing Madden decided to deliver some stellar play-by-play of the one and only Greg Jennings in Madden putting the team on his back, dude. This is going to be uncensored, so if you have children, please, earmuffs.
This is why I say I'm one of the hardest niggas in Madden. I have one of the most best offense in Madden history. Look at this shit. Look at that nigga. Greg Jennings caught that shit. This is probably the last play of the game. But dog, earlier though, the nigga broke his fucking leg. How is he running with a broken leg? Look at this nigga holding this shit though.
I gotta say, it was pretty cool. I'm guessing this is Madden 2009, 2010. It is pretty cool that there was a moment where players who were injured in Madden looked like they were injured. I think they slowly phased that out of the game. But Madden injuries used to be something else. Hell, you could give a guy a career-ending injury in Madden. I remember one time when the hit stick was invented, I was doing like a Patriots-Vikings game, and Randy Moss was going up against the Patriots, and I figured, fuck it, I'm just going to hit stick him while he was running on a route. So I got called for pass interference, but it said on the bottom screen, like, Randy Moss, out. Career. It said CAR. Give him a neck injury. I think I broke his neck. They don't do that in Madden anymore. I think they even got rid of concussions, too, to be perfectly honest. Here is more Greg Jennings, courtesy of that amazing play-by-play man who should be, I think he's better than Noah Eagle.
Dog, he put the team on his back. Dog, let's go inside the mind of a Greg Jennings. Dog, I gotta do this shit. I put the team on my fucking back, though. My leg broke. I don't know how the fuck I'm running right now, though. I'll do this shit for Madden. Oh, shit. Darren Sharper, one of the most hardest hitting safeties in the league. But I put the team on my back, dude. Fuck it. You can't stop me. Cross the plane. Touchdown. Greg Jennings. 49-20, man. Fuck with me. Fuck you, Gumby.
I don't know who Gumby is, but Gumby's probably the biggest loser from that moment in time. I wonder if there's more moments from this guy's account doing Madden that were as good as this, but honestly, we don't want to go down that rabbit hole, do we? Some comments here. Sorry, haven't been reading what you guys are saying. The Twitch is asking at HughDeb, Paul, why aren't you wearing your new Texans cap? I'm sorry. I'm not wearing it. I have a cap that I got from the Houston Texans today that says Texans Playoffs 2024. I'm not wearing it because I want to give it to Joe. Joe likes hats and Joe likes T-shirts. We're gonna boost the wardrobe on Gallant and George tomorrow. I'm gonna give him a gift that I got for free. The best kind of gift, sort of like a white elephant kind of deal. AJ Corona asked on X, what was the temperature whenever the Texans played the Packers earlier this year? I think it was 72 degrees. The Packers were wearing those white uniforms too. Meanwhile, the Houston Texans, they're going to be wearing white uniforms. All white. Liberty white power. We'll see what happens. I like the all-white look. I think it's actually pretty good. More comments, some predictions. On Facebook, Michael Crawford says the Texans beat the Chiefs by a last-minute 50-plus yard field goal. That is possible with Kaimi Fairbairn, but it's going to be cold as shit outside. Tormac Johnson says the Chiefs start off with a 24-0 lead, and the Texans respond with 50-plus unanswered points. That would be fucking sick. Frontrunner comments, they act like the first game wasn't close when Tank got hurt. It changed the game for Houston. Honestly, they hung in there after that moment in time, too. But more national media glazing the Houston Texans. There's a TV show on Fox Sports 1, not First Things First. It's called The Facility. It has 4 guys. I think they're all ex-players. One of them, Emmanuel Acho. Emmanuel Acho is a tad insufferable. He's a guy who has been everywhere over the last couple of years. He even has a book. I think he wrote a book called Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. I think he wrote another book as well. He subbed in on The Bachelor after that one Bachelor guy who had been doing it for years and years got fired because he didn't think it was that big of a deal that one of the women on The Bachelor vying for The Bachelor's affection, I guess, was at an antebellum party back in college. By the way, I think those two are still together, so I guess he didn't really seem to care that much about it either. But anyway, Emmanuel Acho became big because of that. Now he's big at Fox Sports 1, even with that scandal that alleges that he and Joy Taylor are shaboinking. But Emmanuel Acho, insufferable though he may be, he seems to like the Houston Texans, and he believes the Chiefs should be concerned with the Texans based off of what they did defensively Saturday against the Chargers.
I'm going to say something. I don't know if anybody else going to say it. Chiefs should be concerned about this game. Chiefs should be concerned about this game. You can roll back around whenever you got time, Shady. Roll my dog back around. Roll my dog back around. If you know D'Amico Ryans, like I know D'Amico Ryans, play with me in Philly, like Shady knows D'Amico Ryans.
I love it, brother.
The Chiefs should be concerned about this game. If you know the Texans defense, like I know the Texans defense, like I trust y'all at home who watch the Texans defense know the Texans defense, the Chiefs should be concerned about this game.
Chiefs should be concerned about this game. Now, a little insufferable that Emmanuel Acho was like, yo, I know D'Amico Ryans. I played with D'Amico Ryans. He did. He did play for the Philadelphia Eagles back in the day. More Emmanuel Acho talking about how the Chiefs should be concerned.
At every level defensively versus the Chiefs offense, the Texans should win. The corners. Y'all seen what Lassiter and Stingley did last week?
Really good play.
What? The pass rushers. Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter, best pass rushing tandem in football, led the league in sacks as it pertains to a tandem. The Texans linebackers. Their head coach is a former linebacker, defensive rookie of the year. You don't think them linebackers about to be ready? Advantage Texans because you've already gotten used to Mahomes. Chiefs should be concerned about this game. I've told you why. I'll show you why momentarily.
Ooh, he's going to show him why. He's going to study the film. So that's Emmanuel Acho glazing the Texans a little bit. Larco says on Twitch he's got big second team energy. Hey, he did make it to the show. Here is a guy who actually was pretty damn good in the NFL. I think he was one of the better number 2 wide receivers in league history. Played with Carson Palmer and Chad Johnson, then Chad Ochocinco in Cincinnati. TJ Houshmandzadeh, right after Emmanuel Acho on First Things First, also thinking that the Chiefs should be concerned about the Houston Texans.
Kansas City Chiefs starters would have 23 days off. That's a long time. But then I look and say, oh, Andy Reid is a head coach. He's 32-7 off of a bye. So that alleviates some of the concerns, but if I'm not mistaken, doesn't everybody say the Chargers' offensive line is one of the best in football? That's what everybody says.
That's what they say.
Man, the Houston Texans D-line carved them boys up. Andy Reid going to slow him down because he's so smart of a play caller that he's going to give him misdirection. He's going to give him screens. So he's going to do those type of things to slow him down. Now, are they going to be smart enough and understand that's some of the challenges they're going to have? There's so many games with the Kansas City Chiefs where say, nah, they're going to lose this game. 15, come on, guy, I got you. Get on my back. He played Superman so many times, and so I do have slight concerns. Until I see 15 not make the play, it's almost hard to pick against him. But I am concerned because of that defensive line that you just said, them bookends.
Yep.
The Chiefs do not have good tackles.
He is 100% straddling the fence here. But he likes the Texans defense. And I think that last point that he made is the big one. So the Chargers supposedly had with Slater and Joe Alt, maybe the best tackle tandem in the AFC. I don't know. Truly, I don't study offensive line play. All I know is a lot of people were saying that. And the Texans pass rush did whatever they wanted. The Chiefs offensive line, they've been trying to figure it out all year long. There's been injuries and guys who just aren't living up to their play from a couple of years ago. And they've never had the Eagles offensive line. Patrick Mahomes' mobility is a huge factor. I think that helps the Chiefs out here, especially considering Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert. He doesn't really like running, so I think that helped the Texans out a little bit this past Saturday. He should like running a little bit more. He actually is surprisingly athletic, kind of like C.J. Stroud is surprisingly athletic. But I think Hushmanzada's point about the Chiefs' offensive line is one that could help the Texans out. And I think you take a look at the Chiefs' best receivers. DeAndre Hopkins is not playing like the DeAndre Hopkins of old this year. So it's Xavier Worthy and Marquise Goodwin, two small guys who you would imagine that Derek Stingley Jr. and Kamari Lassiter can be physical with on the outside. I think if the Chiefs win convincingly, it's because someone like DeAndre Hopkins has a big game. And I'm also curious, and again, I'm really spitballing here. We were talking about like Madden earlier. I wonder if Derek Stingley matches up with Travis Kelce at all. Honestly, you almost want Travis Kelce split out wide as much as possible because then that allows Derek Stingley to cover him in a traditional way. I would imagine Derek Stingley man on Travis Kelce would be a little bit difficult if they're moving into the slot because he hasn't really done a whole lot of playing slot corner, nickel corner. No Jalen Petrie hurts you in that department. But I mean, I don't know. Stingley has the size and the physicality to perhaps make it more difficult for Travis Kelce to do what Travis Kelce generally does, which is get open whenever Patrick Mahomes needs him to for a first down. So I'm curious about that. Would be pretty cool if that's what DeMeco Ryans does in the game. So that's TJ Hushmanzada. You heard from Emmanuel Acho. This is LaShawn McCoy pushing back in favor of the Chiefs, a team that he played for, on the facility on Fox Sports 1.
Talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, man. They talking about getting a three-peat, and that's what you telling me? The best coach in football, Andy Reid, and you talking about you concerned? You concerned with Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback, and you concerned? What's wrong with you? C.J. Stroud against Patrick Mahomes on the road?
On the road.
I cannot believe I'm disappointed. You know, on TV, man, a lot of times you get your takes, and I'm like, yo, that's my boy, because he studied film, he knows his ball, and he's educated. And then when you say stuff like that, it's like I look crazy.
So LaShawn McCoy is clearly like the fun guy on the facility, and I guess the rest of the show is a lot of film study, and Emmanuel Acho being Emmanuel Acho, which is to say, politely, a lot. So there you go. All the pundits who have talked about Texans, Chiefs this week. We'll have some more for tomorrow's show, which is going to be a lot more hype than today. Let's read some comments here before we talk about some ex-Houston Texans. On Instagram, at Sports Gallant. This is a bonus game. We're probably going to lose, but if we win, oh, that would be sweet. Hopefully, the Chiefs are rusty as fuck. Yep. That's the way I'm looking at it. I mean, if they win, this will be the biggest football win in the history of Houston, Texas. It'll be the third playoff victory for a young quarterback who already has the most playoff victories by a quarterback in Texans history, C.J. Stroud. 2, that's all it took. In the second year of a Stroud, D'Amico Ryans era, a team that goes on the road to Arrowhead Stadium and theoretically upsets a team that's vying for a historic three-peat. I mean, yeah, raise a banner. I have no issue with that. I saw a comment a little earlier. This is from @TexanForLife on YouTube. I saw an interesting meme today. Chiefs are 8-0 for games played at times other than 3:30 in the playoffs and are 0-2 even playing at 3:30. So you're telling me there's a chance. That's interesting. I'm guessing the latter of those was the loss to the Bengals. And the first one was probably the loss to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game where D4 jumped off sides. I saw, and I've seen this over and over again, that the Chiefs and Mahomes are 6-0 in the divisional round. Eventually, they're going to lose. The odds are just against you constantly winning in that round. But I mean, even Tom Brady lost in his 4th try in the divisional round of the playoffs. 2005 season and the 2006 playoffs, it was, I think, Patriots-Broncos in Denver. But the Patriots just played like shit. But they weren't that good of a team that year. More comments. Brandon Halam. I heard McCoy gave Joy Taylor crazy work. I thought that was Emmanuel Acho. I know nothing about that, okay? I also have no issue with like 2 consenting adults shaboinking behind the scenes. I get that maybe Joy Taylor's married, so that complicates things a little bit. I don't know, man. I don't think I'd ever be able to date somebody in media, though. The more that I think about it. Feels like it just lends itself to a lot of tempting opportunities. Ezekiel Tovar comments, Houston's offense can't stall like they did last game. If they get behind, the Chiefs can run the ball. The Chiefs don't run the ball that well, though. I think the Chargers are better at running the football, and the Texans stuffed it. Those field goals the Chargers got will be touchdowns against the Chiefs. I don't know. I think that Chiefs offense this year, statistically, it's just not as explosive as we're remembering it to be, you know? So I don't know that that's a lock. I definitely trust Patrick Mahomes more than I trust Justin Herbert. I trust Andy Reid more than I trust whoever's running the Chargers offense. I'm assuming it's Jim Harbaugh, but I don't know who their offensive coordinator is. But I don't know. I don't know that the Chiefs are significantly better. Tovar also comments, Kelsey hasn't been good this year. Christian Harris, put him on him. Christian Harris is probably going to barely play in this game. He's just not Christian Harris because of this nagging calf injury he's been dealing with all year. Toe too. Kelsey has been good. Ask any Chief fan. He just hasn't been as good with the numbers, but I mean, you still take a look at his numbers. He's better than the majority of tight ends across the league. David Tovar says the rust will be a factor for the Texans. For the Chiefs. I hope so. Red from De713 says, I'm expecting with these weather conditions a good running game. I'm guessing a good running game for the Texans. Hopefully, again, Joe Mixon's dealing with an ankle injury, so that's not great. We'll do a lot more Texans Chiefs talk tomorrow, which we'll do at 4 o'clock here Central Time. I wanted to go through a couple of articles, though, about some Texans exes. One last comment from PG. I'm sitting here in the parking lot of the Portillo's that just opened up near Willowbrook. What should I order? Honestly, I don't even know what the hell Portillo's is. Is that Italian? Is that Mexican food? I'm the wrong person to ask when it comes to anything food. because your boy doesn't like cheese. Rick the Ruler 713 says, man, I'm really trying to stay away from the spread on this game. But these stupid sports talk media people giving us no chance really make me want to take a shot. Dude, just played some people that are pro-Texans on today's show. Greg Jennings, Emmanuel Acho, TJ Hushmanzada. Those guys played. Sugiel Tovar asks if Shaq Mason is starting at right guard. I would lean towards no. I think optimally they want to put Juice Scruggs out there. So let's talk about some Houston Texans exes, because for whatever reason, there are two feature pieces about two Texans exes. One of them comes in the Sports Business Journal. It's written by Ben Fisher. The complicated saga of Jack Easterby. His rapid rise to the top of an NFL team stunned observers. His fall was even swifter. Now he's hoping for a second chance in sports. Will he get it? This article is some of the most bullshit gaslighting thing I've ever read. A puff piece for somebody with almost no opinions on said character that everyone in the Texans organization disliked, on record speaking out against him. Everything in this article is pro him. And I guess in the article, there were a lot of people who only wanted to talk about Jack Easterby anonymously because they want Jack Easterby and his time with the Texans to be a thing of the past that we never remember, that we never talk about again. But this article's fucking bullshit, and I wonder how much Ben Fisher got paid to write this article. Because it really does gaslight anyone here in Houston. It really makes you feel like, no, we just didn't understand Jack Easterby's excellence. I'm going to read a couple of passages from this article. Fans noticed former Texans executive Jack Easterby around the Aggies bench, talking to players and later with head coach Buzz Williams at the post-game press conference for Texas A&M's NCAA tournament game against Nebraska last March. CBS affiliate KHOU asked in a headline, "What's Jack Easterby doing with Texas A&M?" True March Madness, former Texans VP Jack Easterby back in our lives, yelled the Houston press. That sensational tone. Sensational. That's how all of us felt seeing that fucker on TV. That's how everyone felt seeing the NFL's Joel Osteen back in our lives. We don't want him. If you're an Aggie fan, you sure as shit don't want him in your program. That sensational tone, fuck off, echoed in a series of social media comments, was dripping with surprise and almost befuddlement. Yeah! Persona non grata in Texas. Buzz Williams told KHOU that Jack Easterby was just visiting. A player said he'd been leading Team Chapel daily for 3 weeks. Oof. I gotta say, like, having watched him give sermons, I would want to get up and walk out of church if I saw him giving a sermon. I used to be a man of faith. He's just someone that I don't understand how you can listen to him talk, watch him, and think to yourself, yeah, this guy's authentic. Just do not understand it. This article is such a puff piece when it comes to Easterby. It completely blows over the whole him fudging his resume. And then it gaslights us here. Easterby still elicits a strong response from Texans fans, former coworkers, and other industry workers and insiders who know him. Yeah. But he was never accused of significant workplace misconduct or legal wrongdoing in Houston, and the franchise has moved past those stormy few years, winning the AFC South in 2023 and 2024. But he's persona non grata among some of the franchise's most storied players and key employees. In December of 2020, Sports Illustrated cited interviews with more than 40 people in an article saying he had created a culture of distrust, interfered with other executives' work, operated outside the chain of command in an attempt to curry favor with owner Cal McNair, leaked information to journalists to execute internal power plays, and advocated to trade then-star wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins from his earliest months with the club. Where are the details on that? Where are the details on that? Nowhere to be found in this article. Like, that is pretty much the most negativity pointed at Jack Easterby in this bullshit article in the Sports Business Journal. Today, Easterby, just 41 years old. What does his age have to do with shit? What, he's just 41? That means he can make a comeback? Believes he's been misunderstood, unfairly cast as a villain, and is hoping for a second act in major sports. It cites a quote from Bill Belichick. Belichick, I love you, dog, but this is a red flag. Quote, the scrutiny on Jack's career is unjustified and occurred because he was unknown publicly for a large part of his young career. Or it was because in Houston, he was an asshole. A little finger, Machiavellian, Grima Wormtongue-esque asshole. Could have been that. Paul, that's personal. That's what everyone else said. I'm just reading other people's accounts. Whoever hires Jack, continued Belichick, next will get better. He just makes the entire organization, the people on any systems he touches better. Except for the fucking Texans. Huh. His biggest detractors say he's an ingratiating climber whose best skill is managing up, impressing and getting close to the boss at the expense of his colleagues' trust. Seven people, with direct knowledge of internal Texans matters during Easterby's time declined to speak on the record to Sports Business Journal. Several spoke on background to describe a difficult working relationship, but all declined to comment on the record with the belief that his tenure is old news, best forgotten. I feel good about that too. But in this article, if you continue to go through it as it talks about his resume and really hypes him up as if he had some big role when it came to the suicide of Jovan Belcher during his time as team chaplain with the Chiefs and the Aaron Hernandez murder in his time with the Patriots. Like, he was in the right place at the right time, but are we acting like he actually had an impact in helping those two locker rooms get over those two incidents? What happened there was crazy, but a team chaplain's going to make things better? Bullshit. This guy was made for LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn and look at all his fucking posts. We've done it before on this channel. It's ridiculous. Like, the guy just speaks LinkedInese. It's bullshit, 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 bullshit. Listen to this. Talking about, like, him climbing the ladders. The primary misunderstanding is that my communications with leaders was in any way centered in or as a result of manipulation. It's legalese, LinkedInese. And each building I entered at the request of the leadership, and I entered in a role that I earned. No, you talked your way into it. Does that mean you earned it? Does talking your way into something mean that you earned something? Good God. Reading more from this article. It's a hate read. I feel called to leadership. Yeah, all power-hungry people are. And I feel called to sports. My goal has always been to lead people and organizations in a way that helps them achieve their best in whatever they're trying to do. So yes, my goal is to lead people in sports and lead well. God damn, some of these posts too. Like, there's just, like, throughout the article, there's these random. I'm going to show it to you. Like we should frame these fucking quotes by Jack Easterby. Oh God. Here's one. What you believe determines how you behave. Fuck off. Living uncommonly requires courage, a step into the unknown, a challenge to the status quo, and a defiance of societal expectations. Again, fuck off. Mistakes are inevitable and valuable parts of the human experience, offering opportunities for growth and learning. Fuck off. If you don't create the future you want, you must endure the future you get. Fuck off. You definitely stole that from somebody else. Keep serving and bringing joys to others. It's worth it. Okay. I mean, there's a point there, but Jesus. Easterby remains undaunted. Finishes up this article, at least publicly. His last personal statement of the year came on December 30th and simply said, 2025 is going to be awesome. The person who wrote this article refused to come on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Rick the Ruler 713 says, LOL, damn, you really didn't like this dude. No one did. No one did. Ask anyone in the organization. I just don't like people who seem clearly full of shit when they talk to you. I hate that. Like, the entire app of LinkedIn. If you're one of those people on LinkedIn who talks like that, look at yourself in the mirror and reevaluate your life. There's a lot of people out there. Go on LinkedIn and just take a look at most of the posts. Everyone is sucking their own dick, talking about all these fucking things that they supposedly do. It's bullshit. It's such bullshit. Like these lines that people put out there on this app. It's all stuff that like Jack Easterby says. And people like this, it bothers me that people like this can talk their way into getting things that they shouldn't get. There is a skill to schmoozing, but I choose honesty. I'm bad at lying. I'm also bad at working the system. Perhaps that's why my career to this point at age 35 hasn't exactly gone the way I've wanted. But I don't do that political game shit. I don't like talking behind people's backs. I don't like that. And Easterby did a lot of that shit while schmoozing the right people. I like people who are straightforward and honest. We all should strive to do that. This guy was not that. And this article is a load of bullshit. I can't believe that Ben Fisher wrote that in good conscience as a journalist. Like, what a load of shit. Anyway, there's another article. This one's in The Athletic. Isn't it so nice that Deshaun Watson is no longer a Houston Texans problem? Because there's an article in The Athletic titled "This" is by Jason Lloyd. The Browns gave Deshaun Watson what he wanted. Now they're paying the price. And obviously they gave him that huge contract. He has torn his Achilles twice in the last couple of months. Multiple surgeries to fix that. He had the broken bone in his shoulder in 2023. I mean, from an injury perspective, a lot of shit has gone wrong. But Watson has never looked like Houston Texans Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. And I guess the Browns bent over backwards to make Watson happy, which is something that a lot of you people wanted for Deshaun Watson here in Houston. And it's just a reminder. There has to be a limit when it comes to what you are willing to do to accommodate a star player. And no, I'm not talking about the hotel rooms and the NDAs that the Houston Texans supposedly got for Deshaun Watson for his massages. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking just specifically the way that in sports these days, star players sometimes have their dicks sucked by the organization that also pays them to a degree that they get all the power in the organization, and the next thing you know, they're running the show. We saw it with James Harden and the Rockets. Thankfully, we didn't see it with Deshaun Watson and the Texans, though he did force his way out of town with a trade. Here's an article. A passage from this Athletic piece about the Browns bending over backwards to Deshaun Watson's will and whims. Quote, the Browns tried giving Watson what he wanted. They fired offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt after the 2023 season and brought in Ken Dorsey, who had more experience with mobile quarterbacks like Josh Allen and Cam Newton. 2 weeks after Van Pelt was fired, Bill Callahan, their offensive line coach, joined Bryan in Tennessee. I've spoken to players, writes Lloyd, who believe Callahan would have stayed had Van Pelt remained on staff. When Bryan first started receiving head coaching interviews in 2023, Bill made clear he was staying in Cleveland. But all of that seemed to change when Van Pelt was fired. Andy Dickerson was hired to replace Bill Callahan on the offensive line. Callahan's one of the best offensive line coaches of all time, and the changes were a disaster. That is pretty interesting. You would have thought that if you have the opportunity to coach with your son, you jump at the chance. And it's also pretty funny that Alex Van Pelt getting fired, now the Patriots offensive coordinator, God, he was fucking brutal last year. He was their 12th choice at OC. But Alex Van Pelt leaving led to Bill Callahan leaving to join his son. That is surprising. Dorsey, continues this article, was supposed to deliver the type of offense Deshaun Watson wanted. One with more choice routes between the quarterback and receivers, more shotgun formations, and more freedom. But Deshaun Watson's not the quarterback that he was in Houston when he figured out that that's what he wanted to do. At the start of a late August practice, all four Browns quarterbacks, continues this article, went through a standard footwork and accuracy drill that generally ends with each quarter... Ooh. That generally ends with each quarterback hearing a color on command from an assistant coach and firing passes towards a net with various colors marked above the targets. But with the early portion of practice open to reporters and cameras, it was odd to see Watson throwing passes to an equipment staffer nearby while the other three quarterbacks tried to hit the net targets. One rival executive who spoke with Browns officials before the start of the season was concerned about what lay ahead for them. Not an ounce of positivity about the offense. The vibes aren't exactly high, as Watson routinely missed open receivers. So his shoulder might be broken, and in addition to that, the Achilles, it's gone twice. Watson and his mistakes were not pointed out in film sessions. Who believed that players believed Kevin Stefanski wouldn't criticize Watson in front of the team. When Jameis Winston replaced Watson, players said Stefanski returned to pointing out the quarterback's mistakes in film sessions. Well, that sounds like a coach that's being held hostage to a bad contract that his owner gave to a quarterback that's no longer the same guy. It talks about some of the things that Watson dealt with off the field during the year. His father passed away. College teammate died. The civil lawsuit that he eventually settled. But was that really a factor? No, the guy's body has broken down in record time. Players said there was a constant heaviness, continues the article, surrounding Watson in the locker room, and they felt a different energy in the building upon his departure after his Achilles injury. A couple of veterans said it felt like a cloud had been lifted. God damn. That's rough. No longer the Texans' problem. Shout out to Nick Caserio getting out from underneath that trade. Seriously. Shout out to Nick Caserio. Tora McJohnson says the rival executive might have been Nick Caserio. Ezekiel Tovar says karma got Watson good, but he's rich still. Yeah. Yeah. I do be like that sometimes. He was good his first couple of seasons, Steve, just not with the Cleveland Browns. No longer our problem. Thank goodness. What else do we have here before we get out of here? Appreciate you guys stopping by. It will be more of a Texans-Chiefs-centric preview on tomorrow's show, 4 o'clock Central Time. We'll also be doing it on Gallant and George, ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Going through the comments. Littlefinger looks like a skinny Lord Varys, says David Tovar. Yeah, I kind of see it. David Tovar says, I'm a Christian and I did not fuck with Jack Easterby. Major Joel Osteen vibes. Yeah. David also says he parlayed the Texans 9.5 plus 9.5. I didn't know the line got to 9.5 with Commanders plus 10.5 against the Lions. I'm taking the Texas money line. I don't give a fuck. I love it. That's some confidence. I'm starting to feel a little more confident myself. Austin Made Punk says that he will waste all of his money on massages. Well, he is single now, so that might be something he's going back to. Ezekiel asks if Deion Sanders is going to the Dallas Cowboys. We shall see. I saw that per Ed Werder, he is interested in the job. If it was offered to him, he'd take it, but I'm not so sure. That's about going to wrap it up. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you haven't already, please like this video on YouTube and subscribe to my channel if you're a first-time person stopping by. Maybe you're watching it on Twitch. Give me a sub. @Gallant Says on Twitch. If you don't follow me already on Twitter, that's generally where I write the most. @Gallant Says. On Instagram, @SportsGallant. You can watch that live here. I post little clips of the show. Also on TikTok, @Gallant Says. And you can also catch it on Facebook if you're a Facebooker. Facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports. It'll be available in podcast form a little bit later. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on SoundCloud. We'll be back at it with a live stream tomorrow at 4 and a radio show tomorrow, noon to 3 on ESPN 97.5 and on ESPN Houston on YouTube @ESPN 975. on Twitch. Until then, so long, farewell, and have yourselves a